What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another Monday Scale News Update. If you're not familiar with the show, we talk about the news topics that happened over the last week in the scale world of RC. This last week's been a little on the slow side, but we have a handful of topics to talk about, so let's jump into them. First of all, Knights Customs posted up that they've got some new 3D printed metal style bumpers for the Vanquish VS410, both front and rear. James Knight posted up these bumpers showing their new style, nice high clearance tucked up there. They look great. They are 3D printed, but they are metal, and that has been said to hold up pretty well. They look really good, nice, clean scale designs. If you're interested, link in the description below. And speaking of the VS410, if any of the people had any issues with a tweaked or bent frame, Vanquish did post up that there is going to be a solution for that in the near future, and Vanquish will provide that to customers who've already purchased the kit. So watch for further news on that in the future. Proline posted up this week that they are going to be doing the Monster Truckapalooza event again this year. I went down to that last year, took an Arma down there, but they also have solid axle or scale style as well. Definitely worth the trip if you can get out to the Southern California area for the event. We had an absolute blast down there. I took the Arma Outcast that I had and hucked it off of a ramp over and over all day in the Monster Darts competition, but they've also got head-to-head style racing that's also timed. Just a great time, absolutely. If you're into monster trucks, either basher style or scale style, make the trip if you've got the time. We'll definitely be making that trip again this year. Hope to see some of you guys down there. And of course, the biggest news of the week is that this coming Wednesday is the first video where Matthew Kett and I from the Scale Builders Guild will be going head-to-head in a brand new series. We're both super excited to launch this thing. I think that you're all going to love it. I'm really looking forward to it. Can't wait to drop that first video. But that pretty much does it for the news this week. Just a slow week heading into a long holiday weekend, and it's towards the end of summer. Everyone's busy with back to school, the whole deal. Not the best time for new releases in the RC world, but nonetheless, Scale News Update has to go on. And like we have been doing, I posted up on social media asking for questions. So first, we're going to start with the questions posted on Instagram. And the first question is from Alex RX Man. This one says, thoughts on the Cross RC Demon? It looks like a solid rig. I've seen the Cross RC Demon in person. They've got like 4 different models of it. The hard body looks nice and detailed. It's got a cool interior, the whole deal. There's just some things I don't like about it, like the suspension geometry and, you know, a number of those little details about it there. You can tell that they can build some nice equipment, but they just don't necessarily get the performance side of the scale market yet, at least in the trail truck style. You know, some of their bigger trucks that are more military style, I think they kind of nail it on, but I think they've still got some work to do in the trail truck area. Either way though, it looks like they're building some nice equipment, and it just needs some, you know, design tweaks, but still looks like pretty decent stuff. John Schultz asks, what are your top 5 scale events? Really good question. My top 5, I might have to kind of go ever, because I don't necessarily hit the same events every year just by proximity or things like that. And then some of them are just more special to me as far as, you know, people and friends that are in an area versus maybe just, you know, stacking up event to event. I would say my number 1 would be Axial Fest. Number 2 most likely would be Crawl for a Cure, which is out here as well. Great cause, great people, big turnout, nice venue as well. And that's coming up on October 6th, I believe, right just around the corner, and always worth the trip if you're in the area. My third favorite event would probably be Crawlapalooza, which happens in Disney, Oklahoma around the same time as Crawl for the Cure, usually, you know, first or second weekend in October. Disney's got pretty decent terrain, and it's more about the people that show up there than anything. Crawlapalooza, if you're in the Midwest, definitely probably my top event that I like to go to. Number 4, at this time, I'd probably have to say Proline by the Fire. That was a great event at Horseman's Park down in Southern California. So, you know, great turnout, the whole deal. For number 5, I'd probably have to say Scale Nationals. Now, I didn't go this year, but I've been to it a few times before that, and, you know, in Washington and Oregon, and also in Utah, and just had a great time. And it's that competition side. And the competition side is something I do miss focusing on a little bit more. I always love competition, and, you know, that event is usually done pretty well. So that would probably round out my top 5. Kevin B asks, how big is your RC collection? I don't really know, especially if I had to only count things that were assembled or running even. It's not as big as a lot of like collectors or people who do that. I don't necessarily hold on to rigs for all that long. So, once I'm kind of done with them, I don't mind seeing them move on to somebody else. So it's not huge. It's probably under 30 cars. A. Morris said, would you ever build a leafer? Can Leafs flex? I am building a leafer right now with that Cross RC GC4. That's a leaf sprung truck. Whether it will stay a leaf sprung truck, who knows? We'll see how far that truck makes it in the end, period. But in general, leaf sprung truck would not be something I would normally choose to do, just, unless it was just had to be for the right situation, couldn't go any other way around it. I'm just not a big fan of leaf springs. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them, I just don't personally like to run them. High Altitude Performance said, will you be wearing your new shirt for the video? Yes, I will be. Stumbo v Bumbo 2.0 says, what will the biggest game changers, innovations in scale RC in the next 5 years be? It's an interesting question and something that would be kind of fun to, theorize on. I think that we'll see scale expand in both ways, kind of top and bottom. I think that we'll continue to see things being more scale and higher performance. And then we'll also see things that continue to come in and kind of hit at the bottom side of the market. Inexpensive, cheap, things that kind of come in and it'll water the market down in some ways, and people will have to understand that you kind of can get what you pay for in a lot of ways. I also think that we could see big improvements in things like radios and technology in the vehicles. Radios that aren't limited to 5, 6, 7, 8 channels, and we could end up with 10, 20, or more unlimited amount of channels. Something that could more intelligently talk back and forth quickly to give us far more capabilities with controlling the things on our vehicle than we have now. And then I also think that we could see, more advanced units that go inside of the vehicles as well. Not just a motor and speed control type setup, but I'm talking things that have more advanced control and maybe allowing us to do, an untold number of things between simple light controllers or toggling whatever type of accessory that you may be able to find replicated in a real world car. Whatever features they may control, I just see that there may be the ability to add a lot more functionality into the vehicles themselves. Nate Drifts says, thoughts on the current state of the HPI Venture? Did the epic long wait affect the current sales and aftermarket support? Will there be another body version or kit release? Interesting question, and I think the biggest part of that is that the weight absolutely had a huge effect on that car. The HPI Venture is a good car, and if it would have come out before the SCX-10 was available, it could have had a huge impact on the market because there wasn't something that had a really good design with the smaller axles and things like that. While the Terra Ascender was out, the terrible gear ratio in that car just kills that car. While I'm not a big FJ fan, it's just a body. It can look past that easily. But being that it took so long for that car to come out, and then when it did, it has a higher price point. It just doesn't quite stack up the same as something like an SCX-10 It was so close, but it was purely the amount of time that it took to get that thing on the market really just kind of killed the momentum that car could have built. Whether we'll see future releases or not, maybe they'll try to refresh some sales on it, but at the same time, if sales aren't good enough as is, it may not warrant them investing money into more tooling to put out a new body style or something like that. It doesn't appear that HPI has really dug themselves out of that hole that they were in after the bankruptcy and then being bought by Ripmax out of the UK. They haven't really come roaring back to market stability. So they were a big name in RC for a long time, and hopefully they can stick it out, but it's hard to say. Drum King asks, what is your most used favorite and never used favorite RC in your collection? That's a tough question. My most used favorite currently is probably my VS410. Probably gets the most used, drives really well. It's just the one that I like to drive the most right now. My least used favorite, that's a tough one because unless I really like it and want to use it, I don't necessarily keep them around. So I would say, least used favorite, maybe right now would be my TRX4 Sport because I've never driven it, but I did that lift kit mud conversion on it, and I really think it looks cool. I'm really looking forward to driving it. I just haven't yet. So that's probably my least used favorite RC right now. That'll do it for the Instagram questions. Now we'll jump over and do the Facebook questions. Carl asks, when are you gonna do old school Harley and build something from scratch? You know, I wish that I was doing more of that. At the same time, you know, I kind of get to work on projects that we design and then build here for production. So it kind of helps, you know, cure that craving I have of wanting to build something. We kind of do that every day. But at the same time, I do want to get the welder back out and do a new cage here soon for my VS410, kind of a plan that I had that I wanted to complete by early October, but with the new series starting on Wednesday and when that's going to end, I don't see that happening. So I think maybe I'll save that for just a little bit later in the year. Daniel asks, how did the new printer you got do? Final product review, a few choice words about it, performance of it. That question's referring to a new 3D printer that I picked up called the TiVo Tornado. It's $330 and it's got a big build volume. Honestly, I've been really happy with it. I've been printing all week with it, just testing and making sure it's doing great. Did a few tweaks on it that are basically, you know, mods that the community of owners has come up with, and they've made a huge difference, and it's printing, you know, better than machines that have cost 5 times as much. I did shoot a video on it today, and I will be uploading and editing that and starting a new series on that soon as well. I'll actually be taking and going through the OpenRC F1 project with it, which was basically a completely 3D printed RC car. And that printer will be what I use, kind of going step by step through the 3D print of it, more so looking at it like a new person coming into 3D printing, what to expect when you first start doing it, what some of the little things are. You know, if you're not sure about getting into 3D printing, just kind of want like a basic overview of it, especially with how it pertains to RC. If you're interested with that, just stick around and I'll be doing updates regularly on it. And lastly, Brendan asks, anything new for the Dancing Rider? Nothing for me, nothing that I've seen get posted up lately, although it looks like you can get most of the parts for those things basically in an upgraded fashion now, from ball diffs, metal gears, metal transmission housings, the whole thing. So definitely people are understanding how cool those things are and that everybody should have one. But with that, guys, that's going to do it for this week. Make sure to watch the new series coming Wednesday from Matt and I. Looking forward to that. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're not already, and I'll see you on the next one.